The galaxy had never seen anything like the Kethver ships before. They came from the dark edges of space where no one had ever traveled. Their ships were made of black metal that seemed to eat light itself. On the front of each ship was a giant crystal that glowed with purple fire. When that crystal pointed at a planet, everything changed forever. The first world to fall was Nexus Prime. The Nexari people lived there. They were smart, very smart. They had built computers that could think faster than any living mind. They had solved problems that other species could not even understand. When they saw the black ships coming, they felt ready. They had weapons that could destroy stars. They had shields that could stop anything. But the Kethver did not use weapons. They did not need to. The purple crystal on the lead ship began to glow brighter. A strange hum filled the air of Nexus Prime. Every Nexari person stopped what they were doing. Their eyes went blank. Then they smiled. It was not a real smile. It was the smile of someone who had lost their mind. Within 1 hour, every Nexari was walking to the landing zones. They helped the Kethver soldiers get off their ships. They gave them maps of their cities. They told them where all the weapons were stored. They handed over the keys to their greatest computers. They did all of this while smiling those empty smiles. The Nexari had become slaves. But they did not. No, they were slaves. They thought they were helping friends. Overlord Zixthara stood on the bridge of his command ship and watched the Nexari workers load their own technology onto Kethver vessels. The crystal arrays had worked perfectly again. Another species had joined the Dominion. Another world now belonged to the Kethver. How long before full integration? Asked Admiral Velinoth. 2 days, replied Zixthara. Maybe less. The Nexari minds were surprisingly easy to break. All that intelligence made them weak. Smart minds think in patterns. Patterns can be controlled. The next world was Zephyr. The Zephyrian people were warriors. They had fought wars for thousands of years. Their bodies were strong. Their weapons were sharp. Their will was iron. When they saw the black ships coming, they laughed. They had never lost a fight. The Zephyrians filled the sky with their fighter ships. They shot missiles that could crack moons. They charged at the Kethver fleet with weapons ready and war songs on their lips. They were not afraid. The purple crystals began to glow. The war songs stopped. The fighter ships stopped shooting. One by one, the Zephyrian pilots turned their ships around and flew back to their planet. They landed in neat rows. They got out of their ships. They took off their armor. They laid down their weapons. They knelt on the ground and waited for orders. The strongest warriors in the galaxy had become as gentle as children. General Crixdan had been flying his ship toward the enemy when the light hit him. Now he stood in the main square of Zephyr's capital city. He was helping Kethver soldiers count weapons. He was smiling. Inside his mind, a tiny voice was screaming. But the voice was very small and very far away. It could not reach his body. It could not make him stop helping the invaders. The same thing happened on world after world. The Etherians were a spiritual people. They could speak without words. They could move things with their minds. They lived in crystal temples that floated in the clouds. When the Kethver came, the Etherians tried to fight with the power of their thoughts. The purple light was stronger. The floating temples crashed to the ground. The Etherians walked out of the ruins and began to tear apart their own holy places. They gave the crystal pieces to the Kethver. They destroyed books that were older than most stars. They did it all with peaceful smiles on their faces. Elder Sinara had spent 300 years learning to control her mind. She could speak to people across the galaxy without using a radio. She could see the future in her dreams. But now she was using her hands to break apart the sacred sphere. The sacred sphere was the most holy object of her people. She was destroying it piece by piece. She knew she was doing it. She could not stop herself. She did not want to stop. Herself. The voice in her head told her this was good. The voice was kind. The voice loved her. The Kethver had a simple system. First, they would study a new species from far away. They would learn how their minds worked. Every species thought in different ways. Some were logical, like computers. Some were emotional, like fire. Some were spiritual, like music. But all minds had patterns. All patterns could be broken. Then the crystal arrays would be programmed. The arrays were machines that could reach into minds and change them. They could make a mother forget her children. They could make a soldier love his enemies. They could make anyone do anything. The programming was always the same in the end. Love the Kethver. Obey the Kethver. Work for the Kethver. Be happy to serve the Kethver. Forget who you used to be. Dr. Thalvin was the Kethver scientist who designed the arrays. He was very proud of his work. The arrays were perfect. They had never failed. Not once in 3 years of conquest. The key, he would tell younger scientists, is to understand that every mind is just a machine. A very complicated machine, but still a machine. Machines can be reprogrammed. Machines can be controlled. We simply need to find the right frequency for each species. After 3 years, 47 different species served the Kethver Dominion. Worlds that had once been proud and free were now factories and farms. The people worked day and night, with smiles on their faces. They built ships for the Kethver. They grew food for the Kethver. They had children who were taught from birth to love the Kethve Ardot in the great archives of the command ship. Holographic displays showed the map of Kethver space. It was huge. It grew bigger every month. Red dots marked conquered worlds. Green dots marked worlds that were being studied. Blue dots marked targets for future invasion. Overlord Zixthara looked at the newest blue dot. It was a small yellow star with several planets. The third planet was the interesting one. It was covered in blue oceans and green land. White clouds moved across its surface. Scans showed it was full of life. What do we know about this system? He asked. Admiral Valinov brought up the data. The star is called Sol by the local inhabitants. The third planet is called Earth. The dominant species calls itself human. They are relatively primitive. They have not yet learned to travel between stars. They fight wars with chemical explosives and metal projectiles. How many of them are there? Approximately 8 billion individuals. Zixthara nodded. 8 billion new workers for the Dominion. What about their minds? Have we determined the control frequency? Dr. Thalvin stepped forward. He looked excited. This is very interesting, Overlord. Human minds are unlike anything we have encountered before. They are chaotic, disorganized. They seem to think many different thoughts at the same time. Each individual mind is completely different from every other individual mind. Will this make them harder to control? On the contrary, said Thalvin with a smile, it should make them easier. Chaotic minds cannot focus on resistance. Disorganized thoughts cannot work together to fight our arrays. We may be able to control the entire species with a single transmission. Zixthara smiled. The humans would be a useful addition to the Dominion. Their planet was rich in resources. Their numbers were large. Soon they would be building ships and growing food and having children who loved the Kethver. Prepare the fleet, he ordered. Set course for the Sol system. We will add humanity to our collection. The black ships turned toward Earth. There, crystal arrays began to charge with purple fire. In 3 days, they would reach the small blue world. In 3 days, humanity would kneel before their new master's dot. At least, that was the plan. The black ships appeared in Earth's sky on a Tuesday morning. People around the world looked up and saw them hanging there like dark clouds. The ships were huge. Each one was bigger than a city. They blocked out the sun in some places. In London, office workers stopped drinking their coffee and pointed at the sky. In Tokyo, children ran to windows to get a better look. In New York, traffic stopped as drivers got out of their cars to stare upward. In Mumbai, people gathered on rooftops with cameras and phones. The humans were scared, but they were also curious. They wanted to know what the ships were. They wanted to know who was inside them. On the lead Kethvar ship, Overlord Zixthara watched the human cities through his screens. The humans were running around like insects. Some were hiding in buildings. Others were standing in the open taking pictures. Their militaries were moving their weapons and soldiers. But none of this mattered. In a few minutes, all the humans would be calm and happy and ready to serve. "Begin transmission," ordered Zixthara. Dr. Thalvin activated the crystal arrays. The purple crystals on every ship began to glow. The air around Earth filled with invisible waves of mental control. The waves were stronger than anything the Kethvar had ever used before. They were designed to break through the chaotic human minds and bring order to the madness. The waves hit every human on Earth at the same time. Nothing happened. In London, the office workers kept pointing and talking. In Tokyo, the children kept watching from the windows. In New York, the drivers got back in their cars and started honking their horns at the traffic. In Mumbai, people kept taking pictures. Dr. Thalvin stared at his instruments. The arrays were working perfectly. The signal was being transmitted at full power. The waves were reaching every human brain on the planet. But the humans were not responding. "Increase power to maximum," said Admiral Villeneuve. The crystals glowed brighter. The transmission grew stronger. Energy flowed through the arrays like lightning through metal. The signal was now 10 times more powerful than what had been used to control the Nexari. It was enough to break the minds of 100 different species. The humans continued to ignore it completely. On Earth, Dr. Sarah Chun was working in her laboratory when the aliens arrived. She was a brain scientist. She studied how human minds worked. When her assistants ran in to tell her about the ships, she told them to be quiet. She was looking at very strange readings on her instruments. "There's some kind of signal coming from those ships," she said. "It's not radio or television. It's something else. Something that affects brain waves." Her assistant Tom looked confused. "What kind of signal?" "I'm not sure yet. But it's trying to do something to our minds. It's trying to change how we think." Sarah worked faster than she had ever worked before. She connected more instruments. She recorded the alien signals. She studied the patterns. What she found made her very excited and very worried at the same time. "This is incredible," she said. "This signal is designed to control minds. It's like a key that's supposed to unlock human brains and reprogram them. But it's not working. Why isn't it working?" asked Tom. Sarah laughed. It was not a happy laugh. "Because whoever designed this doesn't understand human brains at all. They think our minds work like computers, clean and organized and logical. But human brains are nothing like that." On the Kethvar command ship, Dr. Thalvin was starting to panic. He had never seen anything like this before. His arrays could control any mind in the galaxy. They had never failed. Not once, but the humans were acting like the signal did not even exist. "Run a full diagnostic," ordered Overlord Zixthara. "Check every crystal. Check every circuit. Find the problem." The diagnostic took 20 minutes. When it was finished, Dr. Thalvin looked sick. "There is no problem, Overlord. The arrays are working perfectly. The signal is reaching the human brains. But something is wrong with the humans themselves." "What do you mean wrong?" "Their minds are broken. All of them. Every single human has a damaged, chaotic, impossible mind. I have never seen anything like it. Look at this. Dr. Thalvin showed the brain scans on the main screen. Normal species had minds that looked like beautiful crystals. Every thought was in its proper place. Every emotion was controlled and organized. Every memory was filed away correctly. Human minds looked like explosions. Every human brain was different from every other human brain. Some humans were thinking about the alien ships, while also thinking about what to have for lunch, while also remembering a song from when they were children, while also worrying about paying their bills. Their thoughts jumped around like wild animals. Their emotions changed every few seconds. Their memories were mixed up with dreams and fears and hopes. "This is impossible," said Admiral Velinoth. "How do they function with minds like this?" "I don't know," said Dr. Thalvin. "By all the laws of mental science, these creatures should not be able to think at all. They should not be able to walk or talk or build cities. But somehow they do all of these things." In a small town in Kansas, a farmer named Jim was looking at the alien ships through his binoculars. He was thinking about many things at once. He was worried about his corn crop because it had not rained enough. He was remembering his father, who had died last year. He was wondering if the aliens were friendly or dangerous. He was humming a song he had heard on the radio. He was thinking about calling his daughter, who lived in the city. He was also planning what to have for dinner. All of these thoughts were happening at the same time in Jim's head. This was normal for him. This was normal for all humans. Doctor Thalvin tried to focus the arrays on individual humans. He picked a woman in Paris who was standing on her balcony looking at the ships. He tried to send her a simple command. "Stop looking at the ships. Look at the ground instead." The woman kept looking at the ships. But she was also talking on her phone, and petting her cat, and listening to music, and thinking about her job, and remembering her vacation last summer, and planning her weekend, and worrying about her mother's health. The command to look at the ground got lost in all the other thoughts. It was like trying to shout a whisper in a thunderstorm. Dr. Thalvin tried targeting a man in Brazil, then a child in India, then an old woman in Canada. Every human was the same. Their minds were too chaotic to control. There was no central point to attack. There was no main thought to override. There were just thousands of tiny thoughts all jumping around at once. "Try a broader approach," suggested Admiral Velinoth. "Instead of individual commands, send a general feeling. Make them all feel happy and peaceful." Dr. Thalvin tried this. He programmed the arrays to send waves of happiness and peace toward all the humans. Some humans did feel a little happier, but they thought it was because they were excited about seeing aliens, or because their coffee tasted good, or because they remembered a funny joke. They did not know the feeling was coming from the ships. And many humans felt afraid instead of happy. Their minds took the peaceful feeling and mixed it with worry and curiosity and confusion. Some humans felt angry. Some felt sad. Some felt bored. The human minds took the simple emotion and turned it into a dozen different emotions. "This is not working," said Overlord Zixtara. "Try pain, fear. If we cannot make them love us, we will make them afraid of us." Dr. Thalvin sent waves of fear and pain toward the humans. This should have made them run away screaming. Instead, something even stranger happened. Some humans did get scared, but others got angry. A few got more curious. Some humans seemed to enjoy the fear because it made them feel more alive. Some humans ignored the fear completely because they were already afraid of other things, like losing their jobs, or getting sick, or being late for appointments. The human minds took the fear and mixed it with everything else they were feeling. They turned it into excitement, or determination, or confusion, or annoyance at having their day interrupted by aliens. In Moscow, a taxi driver named Dmitri felt the fear signal hit his brain. But Dmitri had been driving a taxi in Moscow for 20 years. He had seen car crashes and angry customers and traffic jams that lasted for hours. A little alien fear was nothing compared to his daily life. He shrugged and kept driving toward the airport. In Lagos, a mother named Adana felt the pain signal while she was feeding her baby. But Adana had given birth to 3 children. She knew what real pain felt like. The alien pain was annoying, but not terrible. She ignored it and kept feeding her baby. Dr. Thalvin stared at his instruments in disbelief. The arrays were using more power than ever before. They were broadcasting every type of mental control signal in the HFY database. Nothing was working. The humans remained stubbornly, impossibly free. "Overlord," he said quietly, "I think we have a problem." Overlord Zixthara looked at the screens showing human cities. The humans were still pointing at his ships. Some were waving. A few were holding up signs with words written on them. One sign said, "Welcome to Earth." Another said, "Take me to your leader." A third said, "Free Wi-Fi inside." For the first time, in 3 years of conquest, the HFY Dominion had found a species they could not control. For the first time in his life, Overlord Zixthara did not know what to do next. 3 days passed. The black ships still hung in Earth's sky like sleeping giants. The HFY had tried everything they knew. Nothing worked. The humans remained free. Dr. Sarah Chun had not slept in those 3 days. She had been studying the alien signals with teams of scientists from around the world. They worked together through video calls. Scientists from America talked to scientists from China and Russia and Brazil and South Africa. The alien invasion had made all the human. Countries worked together for the first time in many years. "I think I understand what's happening," Sarah said during a global science meeting. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep, but her voice was excited. "These aliens have technology that can control minds, but it only works on certain types of minds." Dr. Rayesh Patel from India looked confused on his video screen. "What do you mean, certain types?" "Think about it like this," Sarah said. "Imagine the alien mind control is like a key, and minds are like locks. The aliens have figured out how to make keys that open most locks in the galaxy. But human minds are different. We're like broken locks that don't work the way locks are supposed to work." Professor Liu Wei from China understood first. "You mean our minds are too damaged for their technology to fix?" "Not damaged," said Sarah. "Different. Every other species in the galaxy probably thinks in clean, organized ways. Like computers. But humans don't think like computers. We think like ... like storms." Dr. Amara Hassan from Egypt laughed. "That actually makes sense. My mind right now is thinking about this conversation and also worrying about my daughter's school test and also remembering what I had for breakfast and also planning my grocery shopping. All at the same time." "Exactly," said Sarah. "The alien technology is trying to find the main control center in our brains. But we don't have a main control center. We have thousands of little thoughts all happening at once. They can't control all of them at the same time." While the scientists were figuring this out, the military leaders of Earth were also working together. General Patricia Stone from the United States was talking to generals from 50 different countries. They had never cooperated like this before. Usually human militaries spent their time preparing to fight each other. Now they had a common enemy. "We've been watching the alien ships for 3 days," said General Stone. "They have weapons. We've seen energy cannons and missile ports, but they haven't used them. They just keep pointing those purple crystals at us." General Vladimir Kozlov from Russia was looking at radar reports. "Our satellites show more ships coming. 12 more vessels will arrive tomorrow. They're bringing reinforcements. Why aren't they attacking?" asked General Chun Ming from China. If their mind control doesn't work, why don't they just shoot us? General Stone thought about this. Maybe because they've never had to fight a war before. If you can control everyone's mind, you never need weapons. You just make your enemies surrender. The answer came from an unexpected source. A small alien ship had crashed in the desert in Australia. The crash was an accident. The pilot had been trying to get closer to study human minds and had flown too low. Australian soldiers had surrounded the crash site and captured the pilot. The pilot was alive but hurt. It looked like a tall person made of blue crystal. It had 4 arms and no face, just a smooth head with purple lights where eyes should be. When human scientists tried to talk to it, something amazing happened. The alien could not lie. "My name is Seeker Vexhai," it said through a translation device. "I am a reconnaissance specialist for the Kethfer Dominion." Dr. Sarah Chun was flown to Australia to interview the prisoner. She sat across from the crystal being in a secure room. The alien's purple lights pulsed slowly. "Why can't you control?" "Human minds?" Sarah asked. "Your minds are broken," said Vexhai. "They do not follow the proper patterns. They do not have central command structures. They are chaos. But we're not broken. We function fine. This is impossible. Minds cannot function without order. Yet somehow you do function. It makes no sense." Sarah leaned forward. "Tell me about other species. How do their minds work?" Vexhai seemed confused by the question. "All minds work the same way. There is a central core that controls everything. The core receives information, processes it, and sends out commands. Our arrays target the core and replace it with our commands. But human minds don't have a central core. No, you have thousands of tiny cores. Each one thinks different thoughts. Each one wants different things. We cannot control them all. It would be like trying to conduct an orchestra where every musician is playing a different song." Sarah smiled. "That's exactly what human minds are like. A crazy orchestra where everyone plays their own music. Somehow it still sounds beautiful to us." The alien was quiet for a long time. Then it said something that made Sarah's blood run cold. "The Overlord will not give up. He has never failed to conquer a species. He will find another way." "What other way?" "Violence. If we cannot make you love us, we will make you fear us." "The reinforcement fleet carries planet-killer weapons." Sarah ran from the room to call the world leaders. The aliens were planning to destroy Earth rather than admit defeat, but the human militaries had been preparing too. While the scientists studied the alien signals, the generals had been studying the alien ships. They had found something interesting. The black ships were strong, but they were not perfect. They had shields that could stop missiles and lasers. But the shields were designed to stop normal weapons. Human weapons were not normal. Colonel Mike Torres was a pilot in the United States Air Force. He had been chosen to test a crazy idea. His fighter jet had been loaded with special equipment. Instead of missiles, it carried powerful radio transmitters. If their minds are organized like computers, Dr. Sarah Chun had explained to him, then maybe we can crash their computers. Transmitters were loaded with human things. Music and movies and television shows and internet memes and radio, broadcasts and phone conversations, and everything humans had ever recorded. All of it mixed together into one massive signal of pure human chaos. Colonel Torres flew his jet toward the largest alien ship. The ship's weapons locked onto him, but did not fire. The aliens still hoped they could capture humans, alive to study their minds. Torres activated the transmitters. Suddenly, the alien ship was flooded with human thoughts and sounds and images. The crystal beings inside heard rock music and classical music and pop songs, all playing at once. They saw movies about love and war and comedy and horror all mixed together. They heard people arguing about politics and talking, about sports and telling jokes and crying about lost pets. They heard 1,000 different human voices all talking at the same time about 1,000,000 different things. The effect was immediate. The alien ship's lights flickered. Its purple crystals went dark. The ship began to drift sideways like a broken toy. Inside the ship, the Kethfa crew had collapsed. Their organized minds could not process the chaos. They had spent their lives thinking one clear thought at a time. Now they were being forced to experience the mental storm that humans lived with every day. To humans, the chaos was normal. They had grown up with it. Their brains were built to handle 1,000 thoughts at once. But to the crystal beings, it was like being hit by lightning made of madness. Colonel Torres radioed back to base. It worked. The big ship is dead in the water. Around the world, other pilots tried the same attack. Russian jets hit the ships over Moscow. Chinese jets attacked the ships over Beijing. British jets targeted the ships over London. Every attack used the same weapon. Pure human chaos broadcast directly into the alien ships. One by one, the black ships went silent. Their crews were overwhelmed by the beautiful, terrible disorder of human consciousness. But the victory came with a price. Dr. Sarah Chun received an urgent message from the captured alien. "You have doomed yourselves," said Vexai. "The Overlord will not tolerate this defeat. He has sent word to the reinforcement fleet. They will not try to capture you alive. They will sterilize your planet from orbit." Sarah felt her heart sink. Humanity had found a way to fight back against the mind control, but now they faced something much worse. Tomorrow, 12 more ships would arrive. Ships designed for war, not conquest. Ships that would turn Earth into a dead rock floating in space. That the real battle was about to begin. The 12 reinforcement ships arrived exactly when the captured alien had said they would. They were different from the first ships. These were built for war. They had no purple crystals for mind control. Instead, they had massive energy cannons that could crack planets in half. Overlord Zixthara stood on the bridge of his new flagship. He was angry. In 3 years of conquest, no species had ever embarrassed him like this. The humans had somehow turned his own mind control technology against him. Half of his original fleet was drifting in space with unconscious crews. "Begin planetary bombardment," he ordered. "Destroy every city. Leave no human alive." The warships powered up their main weapons. Energy built up in the cannons like captured lightning. In 60 seconds, they would fire. Earth would become a ball of melted rock. But 60 seconds was longer than the humans needed. Captain Maria Santos had been waiting for this moment. She commanded the spacecraft Defiance. It was not a big ship. Before the aliens came, it had been used to carry supplies to the space station. But Dr. Sarah Chun and her team had spent the last week rebuilding it. The Defiance now carried the most powerful chaos transmitter ever built. It was made from parts taken from 100 different countries. American computers, Chinese power, cells, Russian transmitters, Indian software, German engineering, British creativity. It was the first weapon that all of humanity had built together. "All stations ready," reported Lieutenant Kim Park from her engineering console. "Weapon is charged," said Sergeant Ahmed al-Rashid from Weapons Control. Captain Santos looked at the alien warships through her window. They were so much bigger than her little ship. But size did not matter anymore. The humans had learned something important about their enemies. The Kethfer were strong when they fought stupid enemies. But they had never fought enemies who could think. "Fire," ordered Captain Santos. The chaos transmitter activated. But this was not the same kind of signal that Colonel Torres had used. Dr. Sarah Chun and her team had learned more about how Kethvar Minds worked. They had studied the captured alien for days. They had figured out exactly how to break crystal brains. The signal that hit the alien war ships was pure concentrated human madness. It was every human emotion at once. Love and hate and fear and joy and anger and peace and excitement and boredom, all mixed together. It was every human memory, every song, every joke, every tear, every laugh dot. It was the sound of 8 billion. Humans all thinking different thoughts at the same time. The effect on the HFY was like watching a computer try to divide by zero. Their organized minds simply crashed. They fell to the floor of their ships unconscious. Some would never wake up. Others would wake up changed forever. But the Defiance was just one small ship. There were 12 alien warships. Captain Santos had only been able to hit 3 of them before her transmitter overloaded and died. 9 alien ships were still active. 9 ships full of very angry crystal beings who wanted to destroy Earth. That was when the rest of humanity's plan began. All around Earth, hidden in space stations and asteroid mines and secret military bases, more ships appeared. Hundreds of them. They were small ships like the Defiance. Each one carried a chaos transmitter. Each one was crewed by humans who were not afraid to die. The ships came from every country on Earth. American ships and Russian ships and Chinese. Ships and Indian ships and Brazilian ships and Nigerian ships and Japanese ships and British ships. For the first time in human history, all the militaries of Earth were working together instead of against each other. The alien invaders had done something no human leader had ever managed. They had united humanity. Captain Yuki Tanaka from Japan hit 2 alien ships before her transmitter burned out. Commander Alumide Adebayo from Nigeria destroyed 1 ship and damaged another. Colonel Zhang Wei from China crashed his ship into an alien vessel, destroying both ships, but saving millions of human lives. Within 10 minutes. All 12 alien warships were either destroyed or drifting helplessly in space. Captain Santos knew this was not over. Through her radio, she could hear reports from the edge of the solar system. More alien ships were coming, hundreds of them. The HFY were bringing their entire fleet to destroy the humans who had dared to resist them. On. The alien command ship, Overlord Zixthara, was waking up from his forced unconsciousness. His crystal head was cracked. His purple lights flickered weakly. The chaos signal had damaged his mind. He was having trouble thinking clearly, but he was still thinking clearly enough to be afraid. For the first time in his life, Zixthara understood what fear felt like. The humans had done something to him. When their chaos signal hit his mind, he had experienced human emotions. He had felt what it was like to be afraid and confused and angry, all at the same time. It was horrible. It was wonderful. It was impossible. Status report, he said weakly. Admiral Velinov was also damaged but still functional. The fleet is destroyed, Overlord. All ships are either lost or disabled. The humans used some kind of mental weapon against us. How many human ships did we destroy? None, Overlord. We never had a chance to fire our weapons. Zixthara felt something he had never felt before. Doubt. For 3 years, he had believed the HFY were superior to all other species. They had better technology, better ships, better minds. But the humans had beaten them without even trying very hard. Send a message to the home fleet, he ordered. Tell them to bring every ship, every weapon. We will destroy this system completely. But Admiral Velinov was looking at his instruments with confusion. Overlord, I am receiving a transmission from the human ship. Put it on the main screen. Captain. Santos appeared on the screen. She was a small human woman with dark hair and tired eyes. She did not look like a great warrior. She looked like someone who worked in an office and worried about paying her bills. But she had just destroyed the most powerful battle fleet in the galaxy. "Attention, Cathver Commander," she said. "My name is Captain Maria Santos of the Earth Defense Force. I want to talk to you." Zixthara laughed. It was a bitter sound, like breaking glass. "You want to surrender? Good. It is too late for mercy, but I will make your deaths quick." "I'm not here to surrender," said Captain Santos calmly. "I'm here to offer you a chance to surrender." The bridge of the alien ship went quiet. No one had ever asked the Kethvar to surrender before. "You are insane," said Zixthara. "We have 1,000 ships coming to destroy you. You have maybe 100 small vessels. How can you possibly win?" Captain Santos smiled. It was a very human smile. It was sad and determined and a little bit crazy. "Because we understand something you don't understand. We've been studying your people. We know how your minds work now, and we know how to break them." She held up a small device. "This is a portable chaos transmitter. Every human ship has one. Every human soldier carries one. If you land troops on our planet, they will be hit with chaos signals the moment they step off their ships. Your crews will go insane before they can fire a shot." Zixthara felt his damaged mind trying to process this information. "But you cannot build enough transmitters to stop 1,000 ships." "We don't need to stop 1,000 ships," said Captain Santos. "We just need to stop one." She pointed at something behind the alien commander. Zixthara turned around and saw human soldiers standing on his bridge. They had somehow gotten onto his ship without being detected. Each soldier carried a chaos transmitter. "How did you get here?" He whispered. "The same way we've been getting on to all your disabled ships for the last hour," said Captain Santos. "We've been rescuing the crews of the species you conquered. Turns out, when your mind control stops working, a lot of people want to help us fight you." Through his ship's windows, Zixthara could see something that filled him with terror. The disabled alien ships were coming back to life. But they were not flying Kethvar flags anymore. They were flying the flags of the species that Kethvar had enslaved. Nexari ships with their crystal weapons. Zephyrian ships with their warrior crews. Etherian ships that could move like ghosts. Dozens of other species, all free from mind control. All very angry at their former masters. "You see," said Captain Santos, "we humans might have crazy minds. But crazy minds are very good at one thing. We're good at making friends with other crazy minds. Every species you conquered is different from you. They all have some kind of chaos in their thoughts. They were just too scared to use it before. Now, they're not scared anymore. We taught them how to fight back. We gave them chaos transmitters. We showed them that even perfect minds can be broken." Zixthara looked at the growing fleet of rebel ships. There were hundreds of them now. Ships from every world the Kethvar had conquered. All of them free. All of them angry. All of them equipped with human chaos weapons. "What do you want?" he asked quietly. "We want you to call off your attack," said Captain Santos. "We want you to go home. We want you to never try to conquer another species again. And in return, we won't turn your entire fleet into vegetables." Zixthara knew he was beaten. The 1,000 ships that were coming would not be enough. The humans had turned his own enslaved species against him. They had weapons that could destroy Kethvar minds. They had something even more dangerous than weapons. They had hope, and hope was contagious. "I will consider your offer," he said. Overlord Zixthara sat in his command chair and stared at the timer on his screen. 30 minutes left to decide. His crystal mind was still damaged from the chaos signal. Strange new thoughts kept appearing in his head. Thoughts that felt human. He was remembering things that had never happened to him. He remembered the smell of rain on summer streets. He remembered the taste of chocolate cake. He remembered the feeling of holding a baby for the first time. These were human memories that had somehow been mixed into his mind during the chaos attack. For the first time in his life, Zixthara understood what the conquered species had lost. They had not just lost their freedom, they had lost their ability to feel and remember and dream. The Kethvar had turned living beings into empty machines, and now he knew how terrible that was. Because now he could feel. "Overlord," said Admiral Velenoth, "the home fleet will arrive in 6 hours. We could delay our decision until then." Zixthara looked at his old friend. Velenoth's S-crystal face was also cracked from the chaos signal. But unlike Zixthara, the Admiral was fighting against the new feelings. He was trying to remain the perfect Kethvar officer he had always been. "And then what?" asked Zixthara. "The humans will broadcast their chaos signals to our home fleet. 1,000 ships will become 1,000 drifting hulks filled with unconscious crews. Our entire civilization will collapse in a single day. Better that than surrender to primitive aliens." Zixthara laughed. It was a bitter sound. "Primitive? Look around you, Admiral. Look at what these primitive aliens have accomplished." Through the bridge windows, they could see the growing Liberation fleet. Hundreds of ships from dozens of species, all flying together, all free from Kethvar control, all equipped with human chaos transmitters. "In 3 years of conquest, we never united the galaxy," said Zixthara. "We just enslaved it, but the humans united everyone in 3 days. They turned our greatest strength into our greatest weakness." On Earth, Dr. Sarah Chun was in her laboratory watching the alien fleet through telescopes. She had not slept in 5 days. Her hair was messy and her clothes were wrinkled, but her eyes were bright with excitement. She was watching history being made. "The Etherian ships are the most beautiful," said her assistant Tom. "Look how they move like dancers." Sarah smiled. The Etherian vessels were indeed graceful. They flew in patterns that looked like poetry written in the stars. But what made her happiest was not how they looked. It was that they were flying at all. 3 days ago, those ships were controlled by alien minds, she said. The Etherians inside were slaves who had forgotten how to think for themselves. Now they're free. They're remembering who they used to be. Reports were coming in from all over the galaxy. The chaos transmissions were spreading from planet to planet. Every world that had been conquered by the Kethvar was waking up. People were remembering their real names. They were remembering their families. They were remembering what freedom felt like. On Nexus Prime, the brilliant Nexari scientists were rebuilding their greatest computers. But now they were programming them to help other species instead of serving the Kethvar. They were sharing their knowledge freely with anyone who wanted to learn. On Zephyr, the warrior clans were forming armies again. But these armies were not meant for conquest. They were meant to protect the newly freed worlds from any Kethvar forces that might try to return. On the Etherian homeworld, the crystal temples were rising into the sky once more. The priests were teaching their mental techniques to other species. They were showing everyone how to strengthen their minds against future attacks. And in the space around Earth, Captain Maria Santos was coordinating the largest rescue operation in galactic history. "Rescue Team 7, you're cleared to board the Kethvar cruiser," she said into her radio. "Remember, most of the crew will still be unconscious. Be gentle when you wake them up." The rescue teams were made up of humans and freed aliens working together. They boarded every disabled Kethvar ship. They found the enslaved crews from conquered worlds. They used portable chaos transmitters to break the mind control. They watched as thousands of beings woke up and remembered who they really were. It was not always easy. Some of the enslaved had been controlled for so long that they had trouble remembering their real lives. Others were angry and wanted to hurt their former masters. A few were so scared that they tried to hide, but the humans were patient. They had experience with confused and frightened minds. They knew how to talk to people who were lost and scared. They knew how to help someone remember how to be themselves again. On one ship, a human medic named Dr. Jennifer Walsh was helping a young Zephyrian warrior who had been enslaved for 2 years. The warrior's name was Keldrin, but he had forgotten. He only remembered his slave number. Worker Unit 2847. It's okay, Dr. Walsh said gently. You don't have to remember everything at once. Just try to remember one thing. Something that made you happy before the aliens came. Keldrin closed his eyes. For a long time, he was quiet. Then he smiled. I remember flying. I had wings when I was young. All Zephyrian children have wings. I used to fly through the crystal canyons on my homeworld. The wind felt like freedom. That's beautiful, said Dr. Walsh. Hold on to that memory. Let it remind you who you really are. Across the fleet, similar conversations were happening on every ship. Humans were helping aliens remember how to be themselves. And aliens were teaching humans about their cultures and their worlds. For the first time in galactic history, dozens of species were talking to each other as equals. Overlord Zixthara watched the rescue operations through his screens. He saw his former slaves being freed. He saw them laughing and crying and hugging each other. He saw them learning to think for themselves again. And for the first time in his life, he felt something that his species had never understood. He felt guilty. 10 minutes remaining, Overlord, said Admiral Velinoth. Zixthara made his decision. Open a channel to all Kethver forces, all ships, all planets, all outposts. Overlord, what are you doing? What I should have done 3 years ago. The communication channel opened. Every Kethver in the galaxy could hear his voice. Attention all Kethva forces, he said. This is Overlord Zixthara. I am ordering the immediate cessation of all conquest operations. All mind control arrays are to be shut down permanently. All enslaved populations are to be released immediately. There was silence on the bridge. Admiral Velinoth stared at him in shock. Furthermore, continued Zixthara, I am dissolving the Kethvor Dominion. Our empire is ended. We will return to our home systems, and we will learn to live without slaves. Overlord, whispered Velinoth, the High Council will never accept this. Then the High Council can try to stop me, said Zixthara. But they will find it difficult to give orders when their minds are full of human chaos. He activated his personal chaos transmitter and aimed it at the Kethver home systems. The signal would take hours to reach them, but when it did, every Kethver leader would experience the same mental storm that had changed him. They would learn to feel. They would learn to doubt. They would learn that perfect order was not the only way to think. On Earth, Captain Santos received the surrender message. She felt relief wash over her like cool water. The war was over. Humanity had won. But more importantly, the galaxy was free. This is Captain Santos to all liberation forces, she announced. The Kethver Overlord has surrendered. All mind control operations have ceased. All enslaved populations are now free. Across the fleet, cheers erupted from 100 different species. Humans and Nexari and Zephyrians and Etherians all celebrated together. They had different voices and different languages, but their joy was the same. Dr. Sarah Chan smiled as she watched the celebration through her telescope. But she was already thinking about the future. The galaxy was free, but freedom was just the beginning. Tom, she said to her assistant, start working on a new project. I want to design a communication system that can connect all the freed worlds. Something that lets every species share their knowledge and their cultures. What should we call it? Asked Tom. Sarah thought for a moment. The Galactic Mental Freedom Network. A place where every mind can think its own thoughts and share them with others. a place where chaos and order can exist together. In the months that followed, the liberated species worked together to build a new kind of galactic civilization. They created the Cognitive Liberty Alliance. Every member species promised to protect the mental freedom of all others. They shared technology and knowledge and art and music. The Nexari taught mathematics to the Zephyrians. The Etherians taught meditation to the humans. The humans taught everyone the value of organized chaos and the beauty of imperfect thoughts. In a small laboratory on Earth, Dr. Sarah Chun worked on her greatest project. She was building a device that could protect minds from any kind of control. Not just Kethver technology, but any future threat that might try to steal the freedom to think. The right to have your own thoughts, she said to herself as she worked, is the most important right in the universe. And we're going to make sure no one ever loses it again. The Kethva had tried to create a perfect galaxy where every mind thought the same thoughts. Instead, they had created something much better. They had created a galaxy where every mind was free to be.